6, 5. I'm counting so slow. 4, 3, 2, 1. Hey everyone, welcome to the Roundtable with Vienna Whyte, Season 1, Episode 69. I'm your host, Millie Rouge from the band Vienna Whyte here in Edmonton, Canada. This Roundtable is a YEG music production. I'd like to introduce you to my co-host today, the blonde lady with the red hair, because I have no idea where the screens are at right now, who makes up the other half of our band, Vienna Whyte. How are you doing today, Marissa?
I'm doing good. I'm on coffee number 2. And because I'm Canadian, I've got maple flavored creamer in my coffee today.
Whoa.
I love it. That's amazing. Now,
Oh, yeah.
Marissa, can you introduce us to our other lovely guests we have on today?
Absolutely. So on our bottom left, we have Nicole Casino from Los Angeles, United States. And on the bottom right, we have Bia Davila from Caraguatatuba, Sao Paulo, Brazil.
Nice.
Hi.
So welcome, guys. How are you doing this morning or afternoon?
Good. You beat me on the coffee, that's for sure. And I'm really jealous of your maple creamer. Need to find that somehow.
Yeah.
somehow.
It's like
Yeah.
a new flavor. It's a new flavor that I found at the grocery store. I was like, "Ooh, this looks good. I'll try it." And now it's like my favorite. I also got Millie to
Yeah,
I got
bought
Millie to
this
try
week.
it too.
Just to try it.
Nice.
Is yours the maple latte? Is that the one you got?
I think so.
Okay.
I think that's the one.
Cool. 'Cause
But
was like,
I
hope
just
got the right
know I
one.
feel very Canadian when I drink it. So yeah.
Absolutely.
And Bia, how are you? How's it
I'm
in
fine.
Brazil?
It's okay. It's a nice day. I have sunny day. It's very nice.
Mm-hmm.
Lovely.
And my lunch already.
Perfect. You're all set. It is still the morning here in Canada. It's about 10:30 in the morning. So I'm still in the process of waking up. So yeah, welcome to the show.
Absolutely. I want to
Thank
learn
you.
more actually about all of you guys as individual artists. Before we start the show, we obviously like to learn a little bit more about what you do as musicians. So I want to we'll start off with Nicole. Can you tell us in about 2 to 3 minutes or less a little bit about your musical journey and kind of how you got into music and where you're at with your music today?
Sure. Yeah. So I started playing music probably when I was around 6 or 7. My parents, wanted me trained in piano, so I did on and off because I was a stubborn kid, some
we all?
piano lessons. And then once I got into, I think I was like 10 or 11, one of my friends was taking drum lessons. And I was like, Mom, I want to be like her. I want to play the drums. And she was like, really? You want to play the drums? I was like, yeah, I want to play the drums. So with the supportive parents that I have, they were like, okay, let's do it. And then it was just kind of history from there. Once I did some stuff on drum set, I fell in love with that. And then I came in contact with like marching drumline, which is super popular down here in Southern California. So once I was exposed to that, it kind of just pulled me right in, and then have been doing marching percussion, I guess you could say, is the correct term for it, since I was like 10 or 11.
Wow.
And so throughout, all of those years, starting picking up different instruments in the percussion world. I actually studied in Spain for a little bit to get a more broad education on world percussion. And so, yeah, I guess my main realm that I exist in is in the marching percussion community, but I do try to, still play my drum set once in a while, still dive into world percussion when I can. But because it's so popular here in Southern California, that's kind of where I live. So
cool. How long were you in Spain for? Sorry, Marissa.
Oh, no, it's okay.
I was in Spain for a year.
Okay.
And it was recently, actually. It was the 2018 to 2019. So
that's
I
super
just
cool.
missed all of the crazy travel stuff.
You got really, really, really lucky.
Have you because you mentioned that you're that you were super into marching. This is more just like out of curiosity, but have you ever seen the movie Drumline?
Oh, of course.
Okay, because I was gonna say that's probably got to be a huge inspiration for you.
Yeah, it came out around the time I was getting into drums, so it was perfect timing. Every kid was like, "I want to do that," and I was already kind of doing it.
Yeah.
So it just kind of morphed
Yeah,
from
Bia,
there.
if you haven't seen Drumline, you should watch Drumline. It's really good.
I haven't seen that. I want to watch
So
it.
good.
That's amazing. So, Bia, I want to hear from you, kind of on the different end of the world, the other spectrum of the world. What has
Yeah.
music been like for you, and how did you get into your journey of doing music?
First of all, I want to say thank you for inviting me for that. It's a pleasure. So let's start. I started in music when I was like 8 or 9 years old. I started playing the keyboards because a friend of mine started playing the keyboards. And then I started the guitar too, just like a hobby. And then one day I went to a drum lesson. And I just fell in love. It was like, I was not very good at the keyboards and at the guitar. I can play it. I play it until today, but it's not, it's not like that.
It's not the
So
same,
when I went to it's not the same. When I went to the drum lesson, I was like, I can do it. It's awesome. And why I choose that, it's because here, I have never seen a girl playing the drums. So for me, it was like, no, I want to play the drums.
Yeah.
Because I have never seen a girl playing. So that was like where I started. And then I started studying here where I lived in Caraguatatuba. And then I started with the drums when I was 12. And now I have 22, so it's 10 years in the drum set. And
Wow.
It's very nice.
That's so cool.
And then I went to São Paulo to study with a drum teacher that was more professional and stuff. And I entered on MESP, is a school of music here in Brazil.
Okay.
It's like School of Music of São Paulo. So that's very nice. It's very like opened my mind for a lot of stuff because I usually just played rock and teenage stuff.
Yeah. As we all do. We all do.
Yeah, but that's awesome because that makes people get into music, and you keep falling in love with music because it's a whole universe, and so it's so huge that you can fall in love for the rest of your life,
Absolutely.
and
Absolutely.
that's awesome.
I like that your inspiration was because you didn't see any girl drummers and you're like, I'm gonna do it. If they're not going to, I'm going to. I love that.
There was about that, and it's funny because when I went to when I was looking to buy a drum set, I went to São Paulo to look at the stores and everything, and then I came into one store and started like, and the guy on the store said, whoa, that's the next Vera Figueiredo. And Vera Figueiredo is a Brazilian drummer. I don't know if you know her.
No.
So it's a Brazilian drummer, and I didn't know her because I was a teenager and everything.
Me too.
And that's funny because she went to my school, to MESP. She was there when I had the final test. They invite someone, and they invited her, and I told her the story, and I was
That's
like,
so cool.
wow.
That's
Oh my
nice.
gosh.
And I was like, oh my god, it's better.
Now you're freaking out like, oh my
God. Yeah.
It's already nerve-wracking as is. That's
Oh, my
crazy.
goodness.
That's amazing. I think it's
Yeah.
interesting too because Marissa and I actually went to the same college or university, and that's actually how we met each other. But in our drumming program, like they have a drum program, a vocal program, bass program, guitar program, winds program. I think in my year there was one, I think it was my second or third year, there was one female drummer. Out of all of the whole school, there was one female drummer. And to me, I was just like, how is this a thing? Like, how is this still only one female? And there's so many people in Edmonton. Like, it's a population of, well, it's not that huge, but 1 million, right? So it's fairly big enough. But I always found that mind-boggling to me.
It's interesting because I was having this conversation a couple of weeks ago with a few other females in the marching percussion activity, and we were talking about a similar thing of like, each year that passes by, there's more and more females involved in drumming. Back when I was 10 years old, there may have been, 2 in the entire marching community, and then 5 drum set players.
Like you can count them on one hand. It's ridiculous. Yeah.
Yes.
But I think it's more that we have representation, now that there are girls in that space, or there are women in that space. Younger girls see like, oh, okay, it is possible. I can play the drums. I don't have to go play piano
Singing.
or play or sing. Yeah, like
Very
I can go play drums, because sometimes they just have to see it to know that it exists.
Absolutely.
So I think we're seeing way more now, but
Yes.
yeah,
Exactly.
back in the day, it was like,
Yeah.
And I think the internet has a whole
influence,
work on because
totally.
of that, because you see much more about the world today, so that's great. That's absolutely awesome.
Well, and the other thing too is I think that nowadays, I think women are less afraid to get into something that is more a predominantly male dominated industry. Like look at the guitar playing, like that was hugely male dominated, but now you're seeing so many female guitar players. I think we're seeing the same wave with drummers as well. I mean, like one of my good friends growing up, or I guess I say growing up, I was like a teenager / adult when I was in university, but it feels like so long ago. There was one drummer who, like, she had been told countless times that she's like, oh, I'm not good enough. I remember we were having one conversation where I had asked her to play on like a jury or like a performance, and I had spoken to one of the faculty members about it, and very specifically they said, maybe you should get somebody else. Like you should probably get a guy drummer because they're probably just better. And I was like, hold on a second.
Wait a minute.
Wow.
But now looking at this girl, like she's one of the most like talented, and like she is killing it right now. She is like a hustler. She's living it up. She's doing amazing. She's now a producer. She's like writing tunes for K-pop artists. Like she's incredible. So the fact that they said that about her way back then, I was like, people don't realize the power that women have in certain industries, and drummers are killing it right now.
Yeah.
Well,
I think that
I
think that we have like a whole thinking that girls cannot be instrumentists, is that right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Absolutely.
Okay, so it's like you have to sing, and a lot of times I've been asked like, oh, you play the drums, but do you sing?
They assume
No, I play the drums.
That's all I do. Yeah.
Is that okay for you? Isn't that enough?
Yeah. No, I agree. We have a question here on Twitch, which I thought was kind of funny because it kind of talks about exactly what we're chatting about. But Space Canada asked, does it get annoying having people actually ask you or point out that you're a female drummer? Does that actually get to you at some point eventually when it's almost brought up as like the only thing about you? Does that sometimes bother you when you do hear that?
Yeah. I have some interesting experience with this. So aside from what I do in my own professional career, I also am a performer at Disneyland. And
nice. Oh my god.
Oh my god.
Sorry, we'll calm down.
What is it like working in the happiest place on earth? Sorry, continue with your conversation.
Yeah.
Okay,
I'm sorry.
You guys, I haven't been there since March, so it's been so sad. I've been sad, but it's okay. Anyways, so when I was first hired, or I guess I should say when I was first contacted about an audition, they told me, okay, it's a closed audition, come to this day, blah, blah, blah. A couple days later, that same contact that I had said, they're not accepting females for this role because there had never been a female in the drummer's position in the parade. They just weren't open to it at the time. And I was really bummed out. And then he says, but I think you should go anyways. I was like, what do you mean just go anyways? Like, I don't want to, put a bad name for myself out there. So long story short, I ended up going and they ended up casting me. But I also felt like once they kind of saw an opportunity of like, oh, if we cast a girl, then everybody will think that
it's marketable.
We're more inclusive or diverse. And so countless times after that, it was just, like, oh, she only got it because she's a girl and they wanted a girl, or she only got it because of this. And I've heard that many times in my career. And it gets to a point where you just want to be recognized as a good drummer and not just good for a girl. I'm to be good, just period. Yeah. So definitely relate to that. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
Man, that's got to be frustrating.
Yeah.
Yeah.
A lot of times people say like, "You're so tiny, so how do you play the drums?" Like, do I have to be
What do you
big to
mean
play the
how-
drums?
Yeah. Where does that come
A lot
from?
of times I hear it every time, like, "Whoa, you're tiny, then you sit on the drums, you look like a monster." I was like, "Do drummers look like a monster?"
Oh
Because
my
no.
goodness.
Yeah.
Oh my goodness, that's so funny. Like,
Yeah, and like,
It's where does that come
no,
from?
I'm just a drummer.
it's almost as if you should like play into it, be like, "Oh, my wrists are so tiny. I don't know how I hold up these giant drumsticks. Oh goodness, someone help me."
Yeah, it's something like
Funny.
that. People still have this thinking,
Yeah.
and it's nice what you say, Nicole, because a lot of times I think that one day we'll have not this separated, like you are a drummer and you're
Yeah.
a drummer girl,
Yeah.
because you are a drummer. It's nice to be a drummer girl because I think we need this affirmation, like I am a drummer and I am a girl.
Right.
I think that this time, at this moment in our lives, in the world history, we need this affirmation,
Yeah.
But one day I believe that will not be necessary,
Right. Right.
100%. So I think we've had a great conversation so far, and I honestly can't wait to. We have some questions prepared, so I can't wait to jump into them because I think you both will have some amazing experience and advice for this. So we are going to dive into our topic of the day, which is the life of a drummer. If you guys kind of haven't already sensed, we are talking to two female drummers today, and we're just going to chat all things about the drums. So if you guys on Twitch or Reddit have any questions for these two ladies, please do let them know. Me and Marissa, we're from the band Vienna Whyte. We actually play piano and guitar and sing, so we don't have a lot of experience in the drumming field. I'm
very good at tambourine and shaker, I will say. I'm a good percussionist. I suck at drums.
Good experience.
Perfect.
So again, if you have any questions, please do let us know, and we'd love to ask these ladies for you. But our very first question, and we may have kind of dabbled into this a little bit, but what drew you into liking this instrument over other instruments compared to like the piano or the guitar? Now, Bia, I know you kind of mentioned like you did start with a little bit of guitar and you did start with this, but what kind of drew you into shifting to wanting to just kind of play drums for the most part?
I think that was the easiest for me. It was easier
That's
for
fair.
me, so that's why I really liked it. And because what I mentioned, that I've never seen a girl before doing that, so I wanted to be the girl who would do that.
Yeah.
I was like, yeah, I'll do that.
Empower
And it would be
yourself.
great. Yeah,
Yeah, absolutely.
that's something like that.
Yeah, well, and we also got a question from Reddit. You're the Muppet says, "Are you drummers?" Like we said before, me and Millie are not drummers, but Bia and Nicole are. And Bia, you just mentioned that was just something that you were really, really good at, and that's kind of why you got into it. I think that's really cool, and getting kind of gravitated towards a certain instrument because you're good at it, I think is just very natural, and it should feel natural. We shouldn't feel compelled to go to one instrument because that's what people expect us to do. I think it's cool that you're like, no, I'm good at drums. I'm going to drum.
Yeah,
I like
that's
that.
nice. And I have tried other instruments, and that's really cool because I have this opportunity. And I think that too, if you have a lot of opportunities, a lot of instruments around you, a lot of ways to go, you can find your way better if you only have one way to go. So that was really important for me to choose the drums, to see the other side, okay, the guitar, I see the keyboard, but I like this one.
Absolutely.
I think more kids should try more drums and more instruments. I mean, specifically, actually, because it wasn't until I was 25, I won this singing competition here in Edmonton, and one of the prizes was you got to pick. So you got like I can't remember the other prize, but you got like free gear basically, and then another one was you get to pick. You get 6 free 30-minute music lessons, and you could choose voice, guitar, or drums. And I had already, of course, done voice for a very long time. Guitar, I'm like medium intermediate level, but I actually was like, I'm gonna try the drums. Like, it's free, I've never done it, and I just want to
Nice.
know like what it's like. And for me, it was so much fun because I've never touched an instrument similar to that before, and it's completely different experience from playing the piano or guitar.
Oh,
Like
yeah.
there's no sight reading, like the sight readings in the sense of the rhythm and just listening to different music and kind of starting to recognize more of like how drummers listen to and how they kind of hear the drums compared to when you're a piano player and you hear like the piano melodic line. So I think if it was more accessible to students to try the drums more, I think definitely more females too would be more influenced to kind of try it on their own or start their own lessons, right? So
Yeah.
for you, Nicole, what was it that drew you into liking the drums over other instruments for you?
I was always a very active kid in like sports and stuff, and drums was like the first thing that connected activity with music.
Physics.
Yeah.
It's very physical.
Yeah.
So I could like feel physically what I was playing, not just in my head feel or like, the feel of a song, but I was actually like, it's almost very primal if you think about it. Like when you throw your hand at the drum, something is going to come out of it, or you're in full control of how big or how small your sound is. And I know that's across every instrument for sure, but there was just something about the drums that kept me active, kept my whole body moving. So yeah, it was just, and just like you guys had said, like I had already been exposed to a couple different instruments. And so I was way more confident that I liked the drums because I had done all of those other things and they didn't feel like
Didn't
this.
work out. Yeah.
Yeah.
Nice.
Yeah. No, that's really cool. And I think that it's interesting that you got a chance to try all these different instruments and you were still gravitated towards the drums. Because yeah, when you guys mentioned the physical aspect, like it takes a lot to play the drums. Like there's so much, it's like doing this a lot of the time, and it's so hard. And like I remember I sat down and I tried to play the drums one time and I was like, oh, I can do this. I'm a musician. I got this. And I was like, I do not got this. It is like, it is so much harder than people realize. There's so much coordination going on. And like you basically have to be playing a different rhythm with each part of your body, and it's so hard to separate those things in your brain. So I mean, drums with being a physical thing, it's also like a huge mental game to play drums. Like you got to separate pieces of your brain basically. Yeah. And connect both. Exactly. Yeah.
And about this physical stuff, and it's very nice that you said about kids and how you wanted to learn it too, the drums. When I go to places to play the drums, like on bars and stuff, and when there are kids, they're like very into the drums, like because I think that it's very, very, it's not primitive, but it's physical. It's different because you can see what's happening. When you make a chord, you can see the difference between, when the guitar and the keyboards, you can see that you play and the sound comes, but the drums is different. You can feel it. So it's not about just seeing. It's very nice that reaction from the kids, because you see the very essential of the instrument,
Yeah.
And it's very nice to be connected with that. It's
absolutely. And it's interesting that you bring that up too. It's like something that you can physically see, you can feel it. It's interesting that you bring up the thing that kids love, because Nicole, I know you're a music educator, so you might understand this as well. But I also teach music, and I've taught, like I've subbed in at preschool classes and like little like introductory music classes for like really young children. And every single time we get to the lesson where we're doing the drums, the kids lose their minds. They're like, what? And I remember like the first time we ever introduce it, like I can't get them to sit still when I'm showing them. I'm like, all right, this is called the kick, this is called the snare, and they're like, and they're like, let me play. And they're just like so excited about it. And I think it's just because it's also like a very easy instrument for them to like physically pick up too, because you're not dealing with this, you're not dealing with this, you're not dealing with this, you're dealing with stick, hand, hit. And I think that's like one of the easiest things for kids to start picking up. And honestly, I think that more kids should start on drums and then kind of see where it goes from there, because I think rhythm is the most basic, what's the word I'm looking for, rudimentary form of music. And I think that if you don't have that intrinsic rhythm, then music is going to be a lot harder for you.
It's the most intuitive intuitive. I think is that the
Yeah.
word. Part of music, I think. It's nice. It's great. The kids sing the drums is like, yeah, you can
I think
Yeah.
it's too like
nice.
when you go to teach younger kids, I always start like with just simple claps. Like if they can clap to a beat, they're already engaged. Like, oh, I can clap. This is fun. Okay, let's clap on, an upbeat instead of a downbeat, as they get older. But it's
Yeah.
it's easier to keep them engaged because they're physically doing something. So it just, keeps them on the train for longer. But I was gonna say before that the drums, like, you can't hide, meaning like you have to perform every single time, or else the sound isn't gonna come out, or like the sound isn't gonna be what you want it to be. Whereas, kids may see a guitar player or a keys player kind of like chilling behind the instrument. To them, their hands are probably going crazy, but you don't necessarily have to get your whole body into it. And I may be cornering myself against all the other musicians out there, but I guess I'm biased. But with the drums, it's eye catching. It's like we just keep saying, it's super physical, and you can't like hide behind it. If you don't play, people are gonna know. Whereas if a trumpet player play, not never know. So
Right.
those
And
accountability.
yeah, that's absolutely. I 100% agree with that. That's amazing. We also got a question from Reddit. Glixo said, it's awesome that you guys are all from different countries. It's really cool. They thought that you guys were our new bassist and our new drummer for for our band, which is
We're like,
funny.
we wish.
Yeah, we wish. That'd be so cool. Glixo said, that's awesome, going multi-country to talk and assess music. Cool stuff. They wanted to know, can you ask them about how different musical upbringing is in their countries, since you mentioned kids? Now, we kind of touched on this a little bit already. I feel like the music education starting off in the States is similar to Canada, but I'm interested in Brazil, because you mentioned that you guys have a music school out there. What is it like when you're kind of just jumping into music lessons? Like, did you start with a private teacher? Did you start in school? Like, how were you first exposed to music in educational setting?
So here in Brazil, we have some programs that are free programs, like Project Guri. It's called Guri.
Okay.
That they teach drums, and they teach, I think it's martial drums too.
Oh.
Yeah, but they mostly teach violin, cello, bass, but there's a lot of there's a huge variety of instruments, but there's a few projects like that. But on the public schools, we don't have much there. There's not a culture of learning music, yet in Brazil, and it's very sad to see that, because Brazil is such a rich country in music. Like, we have bossa nova, we have a lot of rhythms and stuff. But I think that in Brazil we are very close to rhythm, not actually into music, but the rhythm is very close to our routines. Like, we have samba everywhere, everything we sing and we dance. So it's not the education of music, but it's a culture of music. But the education of music, it's not a culture. You get it?
Yeah.
Understand it?
Yeah.
It's kind of separated, I think. But we have a few schools that are public and they are free, that we have music, but it's not the rule. Most part of kids don't have access to that.
Right.
So these programs are very nice, very, very, very nice. And I started in one of them, and then I went to private classrooms, but they're not so large for all the population. So I think that it should get bigger, but we don't have much. How do I say that? We're not very involved to to financial support that,
Yeah.
the government as an actor of that, So, but we have projects, and that's good. But mainly in small and medium cities, we have these projects that can get more of the population, because it's too much people.
Yeah.
Yeah. Do you find
And I think
in like you know how when you're in actual schooling, like we in Canada have an actual music class that we would go to. Do you guys have something similar?
no,
Oh,
no, we don't have it. In my life, I've studied on private schools, so I kind of had it, but it was not something like art class. So today we're going to have music. We don't have that on school, like on. Maybe we have that on law, but we don't have it on practical. You know, it's something like it should have, but
it should be.
To have.
That's interesting.
It's education in Brazil is such a.
Interesting.
It's hard.
You're like, I could talk about it for days.
It's problematic. It's very problematic because we don't even have Portuguese. So music's like, whoa, you have music in school?
Yeah.
So you have a privilege. It's very privileged.
Wow.
So I think that there's a few programs, like I said, who does that out of school. It should have on some schools, but here schools, public schools, they're very a lot of kids, too much kids for one teacher, and there's no
sounds familiar
structure. There's no structure, so you can have the teacher, but you don't have instruments.
Right. So how do you experience it?
How do you do that?
Yeah.
So I think we have to go in a long way for like really have music classrooms.
Dedicated.
Yeah. Well, and that's interesting that you mentioned that there where it's it's not enough funding and you guys don't even have music class as part of your regular curriculum, which just boggles my mind because I don't even know how I would have survived without art or music in my life growing up. And Nicole, like I know that in the States, the education system is very similar to that in Canada. But was that kind of your experience growing up where you had that music class in there, or was it similar to Bia's where you were just kind of like school and then nothing else?
Yeah, I mean, it wasn't ever required, meaning like we didn't all go to music class at a certain time of the day, but it was offered. So once you hit a certain age in the public school, you could choose between, I think it was choir, then like band, pick an instrument, or maybe like a sport or something as, a time of day that you would go and do that. So I guess it wasn't necessarily mandatory, but at least I had the option. And had I not had the option to do that, I don't know how I would have gotten to where I am now. That's for sure.
Yeah. Because in Canada, at least where the school that I went to, it was like, okay, you can either take art, music, or French. So like, nice. A lot of my friends went to like French class and I was like, I do not care about learning French. So I was like, I'm going to go play bass clarinet for 6 years.
Oh, that's funny.
Yeah.
That's hilarious.
Sorry. It's Millie. Millie also speaks French. So when I speak in a French accent, she just like laughs at me.
Well, I was lucky enough when I was younger, like French was the first language I spoke. So I got to kind of skip that throughout like junior high and whatnot. So I did get the opportunity to do more music and more drama related activities like the school play and everything. So I think it's kind of hard that they have that system. Like I get that it gives kids the options to pick what they want. But I think even like, for example, like in junior high, we had like a construction thing you could pick. It was called CTS, but you could pick construction. And do you know how many girls actually pick that? Like none. But I think if our school had almost forced us to test trial like 2 weeks of each category, it could have made a huge difference for a lot of people's lives. And like maybe there would have been more female in the construction industry because there's barely any, right? So I think schools need to just almost give people more of an opportunity in each little section, if you will, you know, so they can experience and they can try it, because otherwise how will a 12-year-old kid know that they want to do music otherwise, right?
Right.
So,
But I think it's the same problem that like when you're 17 or 18 and you graduate high school and then you have to go pick what you're going to major in, or you have to go pick what you're going to do for the rest of your life.
Yeah.
I was definitely one of those people that's like, wait, I don't know. Wait, like, not me. Like, I just want to play
I'm still
music.
that.
What? Like,
Yeah.
you know?
It's like it's like that John Mulaney bit where he talks about how he's like, I agreed to give this university like $120,000 when I was 17 with no attorney present. That's illegal. That's like, and it's true. Like 2 months we had to ask to go to the bathroom, and now we have to decide what we want to do with the rest of our life without having experienced all the things that we want to experience. So I think it's like anytime anyone gets into music, especially into an instrument that they're not expected to be, I think that it's a victory, and I think it's incredible.
Yeah, absolutely.
So
I mean, and even when you get to the college level, you know, out here, or you know, you're at an age where you can kind of hold your own after high school. It's kind of looked at like, okay, yeah, you play an instrument, but what's your career? Or you know, what are you gonna do for a job?
Yeah.
And so then those questions start coming, like, well, maybe I should go to school for something else and just do music on the side. And you know, all those questions are super common because it's definitely better, but it's hard to see music as a career.
Which is hilarious, because then people turn around and be like, oh, Neil Peart's the best drummer ever, and like people freak out, but then you're like, I want to be a drummer. They're like, that's not a real job. You're like, but you just said Neil Peart, what? And you're just like so confused. But speaking of drummers like Neil Peart, we already kind of mentioned this a little bit with Bia. You mentioned your favorite drummer, but I wanted to know for both of you, who are your favorite drummers and why?
Should I go first?
It doesn't matter. Whoever wants to go.
Okay, there's I'm not sure how well he's known across the world, but he's one of my really good friends, Brandon Zaki. Started similar to myself in like rudimental drumming, marching percussion, drumline type stuff, but always had a background in drum set. And then probably the past like 5 or 6 years, he's really dived into his drum set skills, and his like the stuff that he does with his feet is probably more complicated than what I could do with my hands. So it's just like insane to watch him play drum set. He's a metal drummer. So if you like rhythmic stuff, if you like really fast, like aggressive type drumming, it's just really impressive to watch him play. And then I think my all around favorite drummer would be Benny Greb, just because he's got the most insane feel. Yeah, I'm a fan of. Make me feel something. I don't know.
Make me feel emotions.
Nice.
I love it.
Very nice. Very nice.
I had actually a question from Twitch from Show Me Your Benetils. That's a very interesting username. Thomas, hopefully I'm saying this right. Thomas Haake, Haake, is my favorite drummer. What is your opinion? Do you guys know who that is? Thomas Haake? Thomas Hack? Okay. Well, we would love to hear more about this drummer. Thomas Haake.
Lang?
It's Haake. He plays in Miss Hugga. I have no idea what these words are. Miss Suga?
I don't know.
Yeah, maybe it's Miss Suga. Anyhow,
I don't know.
Thank you for the
So
question.
there you go.
But
The opinion is no opinion because they don't know who he is.
Thank you for the question.
Yeah. Thanks so much for the question.
Yeah. About my favorite drummers, I think that I got really into Anika Niles' jobs. You know her. She's a drummer. She's amazing. I think that she is one of the girls who will separate that. We're talking like, oh, you're a female drummer. Oh, no, you're a drummer. Because I think that she's one of the best drummers in the world, not one of the best female drummers in the world. Mm-hmm. So I really appreciate her job and I really like it. And I get really inspired with that. Another drummers that I really like are Marco Miniman. I really like his way of playing. He's very happy. He's like, oh my God, I really love this. Like he's all the time like that. freaking out all the time. And I really love that energy that he puts on that. And once I went to a show of his band, the Aristocrats. So I went here in Brazil, in São Paulo, and then I was like with no voice at the end of the show, and it was an instrumental show, so it was amazing. It was like, how am I with no voice?
Right.
Yeah, after an instrumental show, so that was amazing for me. And I think that other drummers there, like Jojo Mayer, it's awesome too. And Brazilian drummers, I have like a lot of.
I was gonna ask you that. Give me some Brazilian drummers that I can look up.
Yeah, I know the ones that are close to me. That it's part of the scene in São Paulo, and it's part of the scene in my school. That's the MASP, and I didn't talk about it, but I can talk about it a little bit more. But I like Edu Ribeiro. I don't know if you know him. He got a Grammy. I don't know.
Oh, okay.
With Trio Corrente, so it's very nice. And Kiko Freitas, you know him? Yeah, Kiko Freitas. I love him. He's such a nice guy. I've met him a few times. He's not just a drummer. He's a philosopher. So he talks about life and stuff and everything. And the way he thinks music, it's like out of this world. So it's very nice to talk with a guy like that. So I really like these two guys because they are really into Brazilian instrumental stuff, and it's really hard stuff. I can't play that. And I'm Brazilian. I can't play samba. I try, but it's like I can play, but it's not the samba you should play. And it's nice because I'll tell a story about Dennis Chambers. Do you know him? Dennis Chambers is a drummer. So he came to Brazil, and my boyfriend at the time went with him with some travels because of Pearl, the drum sets. So, and people told him about samba and to go to Carnival, to the samba festival and stuff. And he was like, I don't know, this guy's from the streets making some music. I don't know if okay, let's go there. And then when he saw like the school of samba, he was like, oh my god, because it's huge. It's like it's huge. It's absolutely huge.
Yeah.
So, and I think that's something that's very, very rich about our culture. Absolutely. And that we don't, even we that are Brazilians, we don't have these consciences. Conscience.
Yeah.
I don't know.
It's a hard word.
So yeah.
Portuguese is hard.
So,
okay? Let's just get that out of the way.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I just talk too much, but I think that are the drummers that I'm really into.
I love it.
So I'm just going to quickly have to refresh something here. Just give me 2 seconds. We did actually have just a sec here. Sorry. Back up. All right. So we had an actual really perfect question. Someone on Reddit, I don't have the username unfortunately anymore because we just restarted our stream.
BG477.
Perfect. Thank you. He actually asked a question about playing drums in a house and an apartment. And this actually was my next question. So I'm so glad that he asked. So what would you recommend to a drummer who wants to learn the instrument, but they're concerned about roommates, family members, or anyone getting annoyed by this? Because the drums they're a huge sound. You can't you can't get around that fact. It's not a quiet instrument that you can play unless I guess you're playing those just on the pad. But yeah, what would you guys recommend if you're just wanting to get an instrument, but you're concerned about your living space and how you can get around that? What would you recommend?
I mean, I encounter this every day because I live in an apartment, and I can't ever play on an actual drum in here. It would be way too loud. So I do have a lot of different drum pads, which is probably what you're referring to.
Yeah.
If you're just trying to learn the instrument, I guess there's a lot of ways that you can just work on rhythm without actually picking up a stick and hitting something. You can play with your hand on a pillow, or I've done that before. I've set up like 5 different pillows and just like play it around the kit. Like the pillows are my drum set.
Cool.
That's a
or
cool
I might
idea.
have,
I like that.
if I'm playing, sitting on my couch, I'll play it like a cajon, or yeah, there's like lots of different ways that you can not physically have to pick up sticks and make noise. But I say if you do want to pick up sticks, invest in a rubber drum pad that it doesn't have like a plastic laminate or anything on top of it, because there's two types. But yeah, invest in one of a drum pad that's strictly rubber. It's still going to make noise, but it's not going to be as loud.
Right.
And keep the noise before like 7 p.m. I don't know.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What do you recommend with like if they wanted to physically play a kit? Like, do you recommend going to rent out a place, or like is that like how do you physically play the drums? I guess if you want to just like go crazy and get loud, like how would you rent a space or?
Yeah. I mean, I'm fortunate enough to where I can keep my drum set at my parents' house. They have a big backyard. So if I'm playing, I keep it in the shed. If I'm playing in the shed, then if somebody hears it, it's very soft.
Very faint,
but my marching drum, sometimes I'll just take it to a park. There have been a few times where I've rented out a studio more for my single marching drum, because it's annoying to transport a whole drum set. So unless the studio space already has a kit there, then you're obviously going to need access to a kit.
Yeah.
But I would say like use your immediate resources first before you have to like go rent out a studio. If you have a friend with a backyard or a garage or something of that nature. I guess that would be a recommendation.
Yeah.
Well, and I know that some people, at least in the music school that I teach out of, they have like electronic drum kits that you can just plug in headphones, which sound basically the same as a drum pad where you can actually invest, but that's a little bit more of an expensive solution than just like playing on pillows or like going to a studio. But Bia, I'm interested to know what you have to say about this.
Actually, I have a drum kit here in my house. I live in a house, and my neighbors are very nice.
So get nice neighbors is the answer.
Get nice neighbors. That's the solution. No, but like on the school, on the mass, we put some clothes over the drum set, so it gets really, really lower the sound because of there's a lot of other classrooms, and you can try to isolate your room or something, like put I don't know the name of that on the.
Yeah, they're like
the soundproof.
On the walls.
Like soundproofing.
Soundproof stuff. Yeah. You can try that, but I think that also you can study with a pad, like Nicole said, and I think that when you keep on your technique, you keep developing it, you can play it very, 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 very low, and that was something I learned on the school that I am on the math. It was like teachers like samba and teachers like low stuff, and they get like, you're playing too loud, and I had to learn to play lower because they wanted it very low. They wanted to be part of the song, not to be
taking over.
Solo.
Yeah. So I think when you grow up in your technique, and you will find out other ways to play it and to be lower in your sound. And I think that another thing you can do is taking a pad, like my pad is out there, but you can take the pad, and sometimes the pad has different sounds on it.
Right.
Like you have a lower sound and a higher sound, and then you can use that as like the hi-hat and the snare. You choose, and you keep doing that like on the pad, and you create different grooves on that, only on the pad, and you will be making music, and you can put a song on it, so it doesn't get really annoying. You can put a song, put the pad, and get studying with the pad and the song. And I think that one important part to be a drummer is that you have to accept that you are annoying. Like you have to accept that, because if you don't accept that and embrace that to yourself, like okay, I am annoying, how can I not be annoying?
Yeah,
you have
so
to
funny.
come up you have to come up with your resolutions, like
Yeah.
you have to solve this problem in your drumming life. So
That's
you
so
get
right.
creative
Don't fight it.
of how not be annoying. And that's the whole point about being a drummer.
Yeah. Oh man,
Yeah.
that's so funny that you bring that up because I remember like back in music school, we had these practice rooms. They were called wangers, so WENGER. So people would always practice in wangers, and I remember like anytime anybody left their door open for a second, all of us were like, "Shut up!" It was like, "Close your doors." So funny. But actually, funnily enough, mentioning rooms, thank you, BG, for the question. He actually hopped on Twitch to make sure he got the answer. So he said, thanks for answering. Switch to Twitch. He said, you all are awesome. I have a Gretsch kit that I've been using kick drum as an end table, but I love to pick it up again, is what they said. And Nebulant Recording also wanted to answer this question. They said, just build a room inside a room. Only thing that actually works for drums, or well, 6 layers of drywall, then airlock, then 6 layers more. It's some work, but it's not super expensive. So I guess that also works.
If you have to isolate that, you do that. But I think that you can play drums anywhere, just like Nicole said. You can make on your own body. It's very physical. So it's like, how do you do exercise without a gym to do it?
Right.
So
same thing.
You have to do it at home. You have to do it with your own body. Yeah. So find the sounds. Like this table can be a sound. So this is a sound. This is another sound. So find the sounds and make it physical and make it sound like a groove, because when you get to the drums, like if you only have access with a drum like on the church or something like that, when you get to the drums, you will be much more ready for that. You'll be much more into that to do something that's not noise, that's rhythmic, that's music, and doing that experiments, like taking the pillows, like Nicole said. I think that's really nice for your muscles to
just
get the movement,
get the feeling of it. Yeah,
get the feeling,
muscle memory.
get the movement. Yeah, that's really nice. When you get to the drum, you will realize the difference. So
well, and I
think like not really.
Yeah, I was gonna say, just on top of kind of what you were saying, you really reminded me of there was this group back in the early 2000s, 2002. It was a group called Stomp. And I remember watching videos of that in music class, and everybody in my music class wanted to be in Stomp, because they were doing so many creative things they were creating rhythm with broomsticks and trash cans, and people thought it was the coolest thing ever. Nice. It got to the point where we tried to make a stomp rhythm in the middle of math class. It was the dumbest thing ever. But it's interesting how you can get creative, and like you said, Bia, you can use anything as a sound, which is really interesting.
Take a notebook and use it as a snare drum.
Yeah, exactly.
And with that, you'll have different textures, for putting the sticks. So it won't be very when you play on the floor tone. That's very, it's not very rigid like the table or the snare. It's different. The mechanical is different. So when you get these different mechanicals of the drum set, you won't be like, oh my god. So I think that's and I do that. I have a drum set, but I do that because I think that's a very important part of the process of learning. You have to think of something, not just being there and doing it, but you have to think of it. And thinking of it and being creative to create something new, something, if I started like that, I can imagine, when you imagine, you're creating new neural stuff on your brain. So I believe in that.
Yeah.
So
that's true.
Awesome.
It's amazing. Marissa, I think you had the next one, I think.
Yes, I do have the next question. Cool. Sorry, I got so excited talking about different rhythm and stuff. So I wanted to know for you guys specifically, what are your favorite drum rhythm exercises to do?
Oh my gosh.
I know I just asked a loaded question.
I just love paradiddles. I love paradiddles. Yes. I keep doing paradiddles and double paradiddles, triple paradiddles, inverted paradiddles, because they are I think they are the most complete exercise for you to learn the double stroke and the single stroke. So they are mixed. And once you can like make anytime you want a double or a single, anytime you want, whatever you want, it's like you have the control. And I think drums about control. And I like stick control. Because it's just like, if you do stick control, you are a drummer.
Yeah.
Right.
Now, Nicole, for people who might not know what a paradiddle is, can you explain a little bit of what a paradiddle is for people who aren't musicians?
I sure can. A paradiddle is a rudiment with the sticking right, left, right, or left, right, left. So instead of just saying, okay, you're going to play this part right, left, left, you would just say, okay, this is going to be a paradiddle. So it's just to identify the pattern. And yeah, it's like a riff, I guess, for the drums. I'm not sure how else to explain it, but
Yeah, that's cool.
you can put it over a bunch of different rhythms. It could be in, eighth notes or triplets or sixteenths, but I'm always curious to see the crossover of the paradiddle rudiment on a drum set versus the paradiddle rudiment like on a single drum, like a marching drum, because drum set players utilize those rudiments like differently than a marching drummer would. I think a marching drummer would just try to play them really fast with a bunch of different stickings, whereas a drum set player would try and input them into a fill or input them into a groove. Like,
Right.
I think I became a better drum set player because I knew rudiments paradiddles already. And so all I had to do was put my hand somewhere on the kit and then my left hand somewhere on the kit, and I was playing something. I was playing a groove, So
Yeah,
That's the point.
That's
it's
cool.
about knowing the sticking, I guess. Yeah, which sequence your hands are going.
yeah,
Yeah, I guess I never thought of it as like using it, like utilizing the exercises that you use into an actual kit.
you
Because I
play.
like every
Yeah.
time I've heard people practicing, it's always been on a drum pad, just like working on that. But I guess, yeah, you totally could just like change it to different sections of the drum. That's really, really cool and get kind of
Yeah.
different sounds. That's really
That
neat.
comes
I enjoy that.
infinity.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Someone
Yeah.
asked on Reddit here, they said a paradiddle is the drum equivalent of one eanda, two eanda. Am I right? Question mark.
I love it.
Yeah.
I mean, you could use
Depends.
it.
Yeah.
You could use it in 16th notes, which is what he's talking about. One
Yeah.
and but it's more of a sticking.
Right.
A paradiddle represents a sticking. Yeah.
It's a pattern.
Absolutely. So how do you ladies avoid or prevent injury from playing an instrument over and over? And I know, especially with the drums, it's like we said, a very, very physical instrument. So what are some ways you avoid injuries with this instrument when you're playing so much?
A lot of stretching.
What kind of stretches do you do?
Like I had I don't know the word in English, so it's tendinitis here. It's like pain, a lot of pain.
yeah.
A lot of pain.
Like,
I had that a few months ago.
Tendinitis or carpal tunnel. Yeah.
Yeah, I think it's that. I had that a few months ago, so I just started stretching every time, all the way, every day, all the time. Like, oh, I'm doing nothing. Let's. It's like that all the time, and I do this.
Yeah.
Like for a minute, stay a minute because it
stretch.
hurts. It hurts. You have to keep your shoulders down. You don't tense everything. Like, and then you do it up like 1 minute there, and then I do this for. And these and
the thumb stretches. Yeah, I do a lot of similar ones for piano as well because it's all in here. Absolutely.
My pose is like very, very, very rigid. Like, look.
I have to say,
Can you hear that? Yeah. Can you hear that? You can make a groove with that. So you have to circles. And like move and like your neck too and everything because everything is connected.
Yeah.
That's the point.
We also got a question from Reddit as well that said, do you ever get blisters from playing so hard?
Ooh.
Oh yeah. There's a, I don't know, be it in like jazz drumming, you know how you'll hold the stick with the left hand differently. It'll be traditional.
Traditional.
So that's how marching snare drummers will hold it. And there's like there's the callus, like the stock callus that comes
Wow.
on your ring finger, and it's
That's
like
interesting.
that's how you can identify a drummer. It's like if you ever
Yeah.
look at their hands and you see like something here or something here, you know, they're probably playing some, you know, some type of percussion instrument.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
But
Yeah, I
I
had
wanted to-
some other day, but I was using some sticks that are covered. They're painted. And not, whoa, I was in heaven with that, because really it didn't hurt, like it was great. And then I took some wood sticks again, and it's hurting a little bit and making this chaos, I don't know.
right.
Yeah.
Calluses,
Yeah.
yeah.
So it's making that again, but I think you get used to it.
Yeah.
Definitely.
You do have to build up those calluses and
Yeah.
and just your muscles too, right? You're not used to going all the time,
Yeah.
so you do have to just train your body to eventually start to
Yeah, you just
to
need
get
to be
Otherwise, your
healthy, not-
tendons are like, stop.
that.
Yeah, yeah.
Then you got to wear a
doing?
wrist brace forever.
There's a really good exercise that I use religiously. It's called stick yoga,
Okay.
and it's exactly
Nice.
like it sounds, because you basically just take each finger and are warming up
That's nice.
your forearm. So
Hmm.
I'll do it to warm up, I'll do it to warm down, just to make sure that everything stays loose, because like everybody's saying, everything's connected. You know,
Mhm.
you're not just using your shoulder or your bicep. You know, if you gotta like do this a lot, like I'm doing this on the table, or
Mhm.
like making sure that each finger is, you know,
Some like
loose
these.
and all that stuff. So
Mm.
check out
And
stick
this
yoga.
Yeah.
Mm.
on the fingers.
Yeah, I
That's
think
it.
that's a great point, actually, Nicole, that you made. It's also important to stretch afterwards. Like, I know a lot of people think beforehand, but afterwards is like almost more important
Just
too.
as important. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, let it go.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Absolutely. For sure.
Also, this isn't really injury related, but we got a comment on Reddit saying covering wood sticks with wax for surfboards work very well. Death metal drummer for 16 years.
Ah,
Interesting.
very cool.
Nice.
Okay.
I wonder, are you also from California? Nebulant recording. That's really interesting. But yeah, that's interesting about the like, because like you literally just do this, like just on like just
Yeah,
moving your
like
fingers.
on a surface, I'll just start like each finger. If I know I'm gonna go
Never
drum,
done.
I'll
That's
just start
interesting.
like lifting each finger a few times, and then I'll like go into stick yoga with an actual
yoga.
stick to warm
So
up
when you say
all of it.
like, so when you say stick yoga, what do you mean by stick yoga? Like you literally have a stick and you're just like stretching. Like how do you do stick yoga?
You don't have a stick with me, but pretend this was a stick.
Uh-huh.
I would essentially just like, oh my gosh, this is terrible. But I would pretend I have a stick in my hand, and I would essentially just do this with like push the stick and play with one finger, and then play with
Oh.
and then play with the
Like-
next finger, and then play
So
with-
like you do like except better, but like
Let me see if I
with,
have
like
one
one
here.
stick
yes,
and like
yeah.
that's
And
so
then
hard.
It's supposed to be like at the end of the exercise. You know, you play normally with your grip, and it's supposed to feel amazing,
Wow.
Huh.
which it always
I
does.
think I have those.
Oh,
Shameless
B is gonna
plug,
show us. Yay.
there's a breakdown of this exercise on my Instagram. That's
Okay.
Ooh, okay.
Ooh, awesome.
Okay.
That's great.
It's like that, right?
yeah.
And then you do.
Oh.
I don't do that, so I don't know how to do that. I just want to learn it too. It's like that, and then you do with each finger.
Then just
Okay.
one finger. Then just the next
Ah,
finger.
Really cool.
that's really hard.
Yeah.
Interesting.
We're
Yeah,
learning
nice.
new things today. This is awesome.
Yeah, that's great. It's more the pose to play, so I'm more focused on that.
Right.
It's nice.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Very cool.
Also, someone on Reddit said, "See by Dnudnu." That's really hard to say. Said, "I'm imagining tiny stick figures trying really hard to do yoga."
Aw.
That's funny.
Also that. Yeah.
Ah, that's so
Yeah.
Oh,
cool. Really
nice.
sweet.
Also, Nebulant said they're from Sweden. Whoops, my bad.
Oh.
Sorry.
Oops.
No, that's really cool. I like that. I might actually. I'm curious to know how much that would help with my piano playing. I want to try that and see if that would
Mhm.
actually help because I like this is literally all I do. So
Right.
I'm curious. I'm gonna try that. I might go to your Instagram and check out the stick yoga tutorial. They
Absolutely.
do have some drumsticks, so I might try that.
Hey, there you go.
Yeah, great. I'll try that too. Thanks, Nicole.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I wanted to get into our next question here, which was if you had to choose, this is going to be hard, really, really hard. Would you rather? If you had to choose between never being able to physically play the drums or never being able to hear the drums, which would you choose and why? A tough would you rather question.
You know, I think I would go crazy if I couldn't hear, like, just
So
any
hard.
music in general. So I think I would just not be able to play drums, I guess. This is cruel.
I know.
Yeah, it's cruel.
Even as a vocalist, I'm like, which one would I rather not have? But it's so tricky.
Yeah.
I think I picked the same as Nicole.
Yeah.
But if it was like only not hearing the drums in a music, but if I could play it but not hear only the drums, I think I would pick like not hearing the drums, but hearing the other instruments and feel me playing. But if I couldn't hear anything else, I would pick the hearing stuff.
I think because you can still appreciate it, right? Like if you completely couldn't play, it's like, yeah, that sucks, but at least you can still hear and appreciate and in different ways appreciate the music or the instrument, right?
Yeah.
Yes, of course.
Yeah. So I guess for our next, I've got a question here. Do you feel that drummers, like typically in like live setting bands or just like ensembles in general, do you feel like they're the least noticed people when people are watching live bands? Like when I go to a live show, do you typically focus on the drummer? Or do you find that people mostly like focus on the lead singer and like the guitar player? Like what are your guys' opinions on that?
I think the general masses are either focusing on the front man, like the singer, or the drum set player, because that's